Chapter 142 to 144. Days passed quietly. In the second week of the new year, as the weather slightly warmed, Yuto took on a mission. Even though he was highly regarded and undoubtedly a future right-hand man of Konoha's Hokage, able to sit in on high-level meetings, he still had to fulfill his responsibilities as a shinobi of Konoha. Konoha, after all, was a top-tier violent organization with many rules and regulations, unlike the lax and sunny depiction shown in the manga. Even Tsunade had to meet the minimum attendance requirements at Konoha Hospital. The mission Yuto accepted was simple: to kill a rogue shinobi who had leaked information about the Land of Fire. Given his formidable combat abilities and Byakugan's tracking skills, it wasn't a difficult task, just time-consuming. Without dawdling, he packed his ninja tools and left the village. After traveling a certain distance, Yuto changed direction and headed towards the Land of Rain, periodically activating and deactivating his Byakugan to avoid any living beings. The day of his agreed transaction with Yuto Hyuga was approaching, so Yuto had taken a mission that allowed him freedom of movement in advance. The risk here wasn't high. Only Hiashi and Yuto knew about this corpse transaction, so there was no need to expend much effort to hide his departure from the village. The next day, Yuto entered the Land of Rain's territory and used reverse summoning to start coloring Mako's corpse, removing the pallor from her skin and adding a faint red hue to signify life. When the sun rose again under Yuto's control, Mako's body slowly stood up, standing on a tree with her eyes closed, as if in a light slumber. Yuto then went to a hidden location 2 kilometers away to wait for Hiyashi's arrival. As expected, the clan leader of the Hyuga clan appeared alone. At least he has some courage, Yuto thought, focusing his attention on Mako. The girl opened her eyes and softly spoke. "You've come as promised, clan leader." "Yes." Hayashi nodded, taking out a sealed scroll. "The 30 corpses are here. All died within the last 50 years and are well preserved." He paused, staring intently at Mako's eyes. "Does Shinosuke know about this?" "Of course." "And what did he say?" "In the Hyuga clan, there are few warriors like the clan leader." This is Shinosuke's exact words. "Warrior, huh?" Hiashi savored the word in his mind. "Yes, I am indeed a warrior, the one who will lead the Hyuga clan out of its predicament." He threw the scroll to the girl without discussing any conditions. Mako's body inspected the scroll and then tucked it into her clothes in front of Hiashi. "Clan leader, we know what you want. You will get what you wish for." Exchanging corpses for the possibility of future transactions was the chip both parties offered today. Suppressing his inner joy, Hiyashi's voice trembled slightly. "So, what is my cost?" "Only by giving up everything can you gain everything." Yuto controlled Mako's body and spoke thoughtfully. 30 genin corpses could only make 2 gods' masks, which was far from enough. The Battle of Kanabi Bridge would take place in the spring, with a high chance of war breaking out. Moreover, making Uzumaki and Uchiha clones required 2 masks. The more gods' masks, the better. He had to lure Hayashi in, making him willingly provide more corpses. A taste of the benefits was necessary. "Give up everything," Hiashi said with difficulty. "So Shinosuke paid such a heavy price." "Clan leader, what you gain will definitely outweigh what you lose. Now Shinosuke has those eyes, and I am by his side. Isn't that better than the days in Konoha?" Mako turned and softly said, "I will bring gifts in our next transaction as well." In the damp and cold forest of the Land of Rain, Mako's body ran at high speed, with Yuto trailing far behind, controlling and contemplating simultaneously. He planned to head to a secret base in the Land of Rain with Mako's body, seal the girl's body, extract the Hyuga corpses, and use them to make gods' masks. Given the mask creation cycle, it wouldn't be ready during his kill the traitor mission. He'd have to find another excuse to leave the village. Yuto rubbed his forehead, but just as he was deep in thought, a sudden sense of danger exploded in his mind. His nerves tensed instantly, and chakra roared through his chakra pathway. Far from his line of sight, Meiko's body suddenly stopped. With Byakugan activated, the girl's clear voice echoed through the forest. "Who's there?" In the rustling sounds, a stranger stepped out from the shadows of the trees. He was tall, wearing a gray robe and a peculiar mask with a spiral pattern that only exposed his left eye. That lone eye was pitch black. After a brief silence, both the masked man and Meiko's body moved simultaneously. Controlling a fellow clan member's body was second nature to Yuto. Meiko was a main family lady with well-honed gentle fist techniques, and her chakra pathway were extremely familiar with this chakra movement method. Bang! Meiko's body struck out with a palm, chakra bursting through the air, hitting the man with palm form. 8 trigrams. Palm rotation. A genius like Yuto, who could self-learn revolving heaven, naturally had long mastered the palm rotation technique. The man remained silent, agilely leaping away as Meiko's body threw a kunai, following it closely. The kunai missed, but the man's mid-air evasion left him unable to gain leverage again. They collided, and Yuto took a deep breath, unleashing the familiar gentle fist. Bang, 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 bang. The gentle fist, renowned as a secret close combat technique, excelled in short-range combat. As Hyuga's foundational skill, a set of gentle fist moves could severely injure even a tough-bodied taijutsu shinobi. However, the man completely kept up with Meiko's speed, handling her effortlessly, with his fingers, fists, and palms continuously clashing, completely suppressing the gentle fist. In a fleeting moment, the man reached out, bypassed the gentle fist defense, and grabbed the girl's collar. Revolving heaven! Meiko's body spun rapidly, repelling the man. As the masked man landed gracefully, Yuto's brows furrowed tightly. A formidable opponent. Pure gentle fist techniques are not enough. And his reactions are too fast. The gap was at most 1/20th of a second, yet he managed to seize it. Such rapid movements, and he could see them all? When the man looked up again, Yuto's thoughts momentarily stalled. Many questions were answered in that instant. The exposed eye had turned blood red, and within the cold, sinister gaze, 3 tomo slowly rotated. "Are you cosplaying as Obito, that punk?" Yuto suddenly felt like laughing. 1 Sharingan plus a spiral mask. Are you trying to be mysterious? However, Yuto knew that the person in front of him couldn't be Obito. The Battle of Canopy Bridge hadn't happened yet, and Obito hadn't gone rogue. Moreover, the visible eye was wrong. Obito's was the right eye. This man's was the left. Who could it be? Yuto wondered, taking a deep breath. Since the Byakugan can't see through that mask, I'll just rip it off. Yin seal, release, he murmured softly. The diamond-shaped mark on his forehead vanished, and the chakra accumulated over time exploded, almost bursting through his chakra pathway. The black receivers began to vibrate unprecedentedly, and chakra surged from the ends of the black rods into Meiko's body. The girl's blood vessels burst, her bones creaked, unable to withstand such immense chakra. A corpse should be used like this. Yuto's lips curled up, and at the same time, Meiko's corpse smiled. 8 trigrams, vacuum palm. The girl raised her hand, and a tidal wave of force poured out. If the earlier strike was precise acupuncture, this one was a mountain crashing down. Even the best dynamic vision was useless as the man was sent flying, crashing through numerous trees. Meiko's body was covered in blood. She stomped the ground hard and jumped above the enemy, delivering another vacuum palm, driving the man into the ground. "Quit pretending, I'll tear off your skin." The girl's voice echoed through the forest as she fell, ready to use gentle fist techniques to cripple the man. At that moment, a kunai was thrown by the man, aiming for Meiko's face. "Struggling to the end," Yuto scoffed, controlling Mako to punch the kunai away. Bang! The impact was enormous, and even 2 kilometers away, Yuto heard it clearly. The girl was sent flying, blood splattering everywhere. What's going on? A special kunai? Yuto frowned, looking at his palm. From the feedback Mako's body gave, the reaction force felt like hitting a mountain. Meanwhile, the man stood up, dusted off his clothes, and raised his head. The scarlet Sharingan had transformed. 3 tomo merged, lines intertwining like a blooming flower with 3 petals, each petal sensuously hugging the edge of the crimson eye, beautiful and dangerous. A Mangekyo. Moreover, it was a pattern Yuto had never seen in his previous life. Are you kidding me? Yuto broke out in cold sweat. Besides Madara, Fugaku, Izuna, Obito, Shisui, Itachi, and Sasuke, who else had awakened the Mangekyo? Though the Uchiha clan had many branches and geniuses occasionally emerged, theoretically there could be more Mangekyo users, but if there were, it should be from the Warring States period, not appearing before him now. Different minds, different eyes, different abilities. The power that altered the kunai earlier must be from that Mangekyo. For a shinobi, information is a lifeline. Facing an unknown Mangekyo, the danger level skyrocketed. Run. Yuto considered this briefly. No. On second thought, this might be a great opportunity to test this unknown Mangekyo's ability. The worst-case scenario is that Mako's body is completely ruined. In an instant, Yuto made a decision, and Mako charged again. Chakra poured out like there was no tomorrow. 3 punches were thrown, followed by a yin seal-enhanced vacuum palm. The man didn't dodge. Instead, he threw a few shuriken. Under some power's influence, they pierced through the vacuum palm and hit Mako's body. Revolving heaven! A spherical chakra shield appeared, catching all the shuriken. The force erupted and Mako was sent flying, her body tearing through the ground. Her skin was shredded, clothes tattered, looking pitiful. However, from the 2 consecutive attacks, Yuto gleaned something. The ninja tools didn't change speed. What made them unstoppable was the sudden addition of terrifying weight. That Mangekyo's focus can briefly increase an object's weight by thousands of times, Yuto hypothesized. Having achieved his goal, there was no need to continue the fight. Yuto controlled Mako to limp away. The one-eyed masked man didn't pursue, but watched the retreating figure thoughtfully. His objective was also achieved. In the dim underground, accompanied by light footsteps, the one-eyed masked man approached an old man. Madara-sama, that woman indeed has black receivers. The man removed his mask, revealing a half-white face. White Zetsu. Madara Uchiha, eyes closed, remained seated, sustained by chakra from the demonic statue. Here you go. White Zetsu cheerfully handed over the Sharingan. Your Uchiha eyes are really handy, though they consume a lot of chakra. Luckily, my body's compatibility is high enough to turn off the Sharingan. Otherwise, I'd be drained before the fight even began. But Madara-sama, don't blame me for being rude. Every time you make me take this eye out for a mission, your eye sockets are empty. Isn't that uncomfortable? Get a spare eye. Or do you have a cleanliness obsession? After all, this Mangekyo isn't yours, haha. Madara took the eye, ignoring White Zetsu's ramblings, skillfully connecting it with medical ninjutsu. After a while, Madara opened his eyes, speaking calmly. Unworthy eyes don't belong in my sockets, not even temporarily. So you chose this eye carefully? Yes. Whose eye is it? Kagami, Uchiha, a junior of mine. Kagami Uchiha, a genius of the same generation as Hiruzen Sarutobi, awakened the Mangekyo on the day news of the second Hokage's death reached the village. As for why there were no records after he awakened the Mangekyo, why he died young at 25, and how one of his eyes ended up with Madara while the other was taken by the Uchiha clan and later obtained by Yuto, it remains a complex, untold story. The real world is composed of countless unsolvable mysteries. Even true sages cannot know all secrets. Kagami Uchiha? Was he strong? Probably. Hey, Madara-sama, what does probably mean? Either he was strong, or he wasn't. Madara, as withered as old wood, spoke softly. If I remember the name, he was strong, but if I've forgotten his face, he wasn't that strong. Awakening the Mangekyo was merely meeting the criteria for Madara's memory. White Zetsu elongated his voice. Though occasionally annoying, his noisy presence was tolerated by Madara in this dark underground. Hey, Madara-sama, who else do you remember as strong? Don't ignore me. White Zetsu grinned. How about Kakuzu? Remember him? Who? Is that a human's name? Or a summoning beast's? Mere insects don't deserve a place in my mind. Ha 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 ha. What about Onoki? He's not bad. He can stand at the same level as my feet. He only deserves to kneel before me. What about Tobirama Senju? Flying Thunder God, impure world reincarnation. He was full of little tricks, but he can see my knees. Though we are bitter enemies, he was indeed skilled. What about Ryusuke Hyuga? Ryusuke. If he were still alive, he'd probably be older than me. He deserves to be killed by my Rinnegan. Unfortunately, the Hyuga clan can no longer produce anyone with backbone. A true master, but still a notch below me. What an arrogant guy you are, Madara-sama. White Zetsu scratched his head crazily, then thought of something and asked seriously, What about Hashirama Senju? The underground fell into a deathly silence. Hashirama, the god of shinobi from the Senju clan, the first Hokage, who fought me countless times. Hashirama Senju. The aged Madara leaned back in his chair, and just before closing his eyes, his voice resonated in the dark underground. The whole world was just our battlefield, nothing more. With a loud thud, a perfectly intact corpse appeared on the ground. Yuto flicked the sealing scroll and nodded. The S-rank mission, the execution of the renegade shinobi, is complete. This is Goro Uchida. Please wait a moment, Yuto-sama. Two Chunin from the mission office respectfully nodded and took out tools to examine the body on site. Fingerprints, bone age, appearance. It is indeed Goro Uchida. The cause of death is a fractured cervical spine. As expected of you, Yuto-sama, your mission was executed flawlessly. The Chunin made a mark in the mission log and bowed. Thank you for your hard work. Yuto waved his hand dismissively and walked away after a few polite words. These execution missions are time-sensitive. After clashing with the one-eyed masked man, Yuto quickly found Goro Uchida, killed him, and immediately returned to Konoha. The boy originally planned to rest in the Senju clan territory, but as soon as he stepped through the gate, the Anbu summoned him to the Hokage's office. In the office, Hiruzen smiled at him. Yuto-kun, just returned? Yes, Hokage-sama, Yuto replied respectfully, though inwardly he was sarcastic. You had people waiting for me at the Senju clan gate. Don't you know if I just returned? I have a special mission for you, Yuto-kun, the Hokage said with a chuckle, patting him on the shoulder. Do you remember the high-level meeting after the new year discussing the truce with Sunagakure? There's been progress on that. Sunagakure submitted a truce request, and we in Konoha have agreed. As usual, we'll send someone with the initial draft of the peace treaty to negotiate with Sunagakure. Normally, Danzo would handle the negotiations, but this time you'll be in charge, Yuto-kun. Yuto nodded. He knew this was the third Hokage delegating power to Minato, entrusting some core affairs to the new generation of leaders. Understood, Hokage-sama. When do I leave? No rush. This is not just a negotiation between Konoha and Sunagakure, but also involves the interests of the Land of Fire and the Land of Wind. The daimyo of the Land of Fire will send a high-ranking official to accompany you. You have about a week to prepare and rest. The timing was perfect. Yuto thought to himself, I can get those 2 newly cultivated gods' masks ready." He then asked, "Hokage-sama, do you have any specific instructions for the negotiation's outcome? Just don't push Tsunagakure too hard. Do what you think is best." "Yes." Lying on a tatami mat, Yuto meticulously planned his next actions. Cultivate the new gods' masks. Represent Konoha in negotiations with Tsunagakure. Intervene in the Battle of Kanabi Bridge to obtain Madara's cells. The first 2 tasks were easy, but the last one was a risky venture. Even though Madara's body had deteriorated severely, and he had given his Rinnegan to Nagato, Yuto didn't dare underestimate the man known as Madara Uchiha. Getting Madara's flesh and blood would undoubtedly require significant effort. Although Madara was very weak now, Yuto's instincts told him that the man must have hidden some trump cards and might reveal some powerful weapon in a crisis. But speaking of which, that one-eyed man's look really resembles Obito. Yuto frowned, recalling the mysterious Sharingan that served as bait. Using the summoning technique, he arrived at Shikotsu Forest. Nowadays, this sage land had almost become a mobile secret base for Yuto. To facilitate easy access, Yuto had stored many of his illicit items here. On a clean stone platform lay the corpse of a young girl, her skin and bones broken, limbs twisted, blood drained, and clothes torn to shreds. Through the tattered clothing, a black rod was clearly visible. I must consider the possibility of the black rod's information being leaked. Both Madara and Nagato should be aware of this yin-yang release product. Yuto muttered as he took out a small box covered with sealing techniques and carefully opened it, revealing a Sharingan inside. With a squelch, he removed her right eye and used medical ninjutsu to implant the Sharingan. If this Mangekyo Sharingan and the one used by the one-eyed masked man came from the same person, he would soon find out. Time flew by. After Yuto obtained the 2 newly cultivated gods' masks and returned to Konoha, winter was drawing to a close. The snow melted, buds sprouted, and the land was full of life. Tsunade loosened her grip, letting the hair tie drop into her hand. She tied her golden hair into twin ponytails, gave a casual shake, and glanced at the boy next to her. "This time you're leading Konoha. Don't go calling for sensei every time something happens." "Understood," Yuto replied, stuffing the rice ball Shizune made into his mouth, then asked curiously, "Sensei, why are you going this time? Ibizo and Chio are both cunning old foxes. Konoha needs to send someone experienced too." The blonde woman laughed, rubbing her hands together. "Besides, since returning from the land of rain, I haven't left the village for 5 months. I'm dying for some action. Even my dice are getting rusty. I'm going to gamble my heart out this time. Hehehe." "Huh? Tsunagakure is so poor they can barely afford ninja tools. Do they even have a casino?" "Kid, the poorer the place, the more casinos there are." I learned something new. The 2 chatted as they walked out of the Senju clan territory and headed to Konoha's gate. A large convoy was waiting there. Unlike pure combat units, this convoy bore prominent banners. Besides the fully armed Konoha shinobi, there were also officials and attendants in traditional Fire Nation attire. A carriage stood at the convoy's center, from which a man in his 50s poked his head out. "Yuto-sama, Tsunade Jaime." He had a benevolent face and spoke politely. "This journey to the land of wind will trouble you both." Araki Ryuji, one of the daimyo's top ministers in the Land of Fire, was the nominal head of this delegation. "Ryuji-sama," Yuto stepped forward, "you're too kind. Protecting high-ranking officials of the Land of Fire is one of our duties as Konoha shinobi." After some polite exchanges, they departed on time. In the one nation, one village system, the nation comes first and the village second. The daimyo of the Land of Fire theoretically outranks the Hokage, can interfere in Konoha's internal affairs, and oversees the nation's matters, acting as the autocrat of this land. Ryuji, being one of the top 3 officials in the Fire Nation, would be on par with Hiruzen in Konoha. Yet throughout the journey, Ryuji gave no orders to Yuto and Tsunade, not even speaking in a commanding tone. He addressed them with utmost respect, as Sama and Haim, and if not for his senior age, he might have called them lords. This world ultimately belongs to Chakra. The system of national village alliances created by Hashirama Senju deviated from his original intentions from the start. No daimyo dares to order a kage, and no nation dares to dictate to a shinobi village. In the original story, after Pain's attack on Konoha and Tsunade stepped down as Hokage, the daimyo of the Land of Fire came to appoint the next Hokage. However, he had no real authority, and merely chose between Shikaku Nara's recommendation of Kakashi Hatake and Danzo Shimura's self-recommendation. He chose Danzo because of his stronger methods and tougher stance. In a way, nations are subservient to shinobi villages, providing them with population, a stable environment, vast strategic depth, and economic support. Power comes from strength, and shinobi, or chakra-wielding beings, are the ultimate representation of power in this world. The journey was peaceful, but because of the presence of ordinary people, Konoha's delegation moved slowly. It took 4 days to reach the Fire Nation's border. The Fire Nation and the Land of Wind do not share a border. The Land of Rain and the Land of Valleys lie in between. With the intense fighting in the Land of Rain, to avoid complications, the delegation would pass through the Land of Valleys to reach Tsunagakure's territory. Upon crossing the border into the Land of Valleys, they were greeted with horrific scenes. This small country had little self-defense capability. Although not a primary battlefield, occasional skirmishes between the Fire and Wind nations would decimate the fragile economy of the Land of Valleys. Konoha's delegation could do nothing about this and had no grounds to intervene, so they silently sped up, focusing on their journey. In just half a day, they were treading on yellow sand.